Bright light city, gonna set my soul on fire.
Las Vegas. Bright lights, Sin City, hub of hedonism that thrives off the fun times of visitors from around the globe. A vibrant maze of casinos hosts the array of tourists who come and go endlessly to the city, who never closes its doors until the day the lights went out.
Clark County reporting its first death from COVID-19, the novel coronavirus.
The number of coronavirus cases going up by more than 100 since we were on air at 6.
Tonight, Nevada Governor Steve Sisolak declared a state of emergency.
There are more than 5,300 cases and at least 257 deaths.
Casino companies are projected to lose $39 billion in the next year and a half.
UNLV students now scrambling to find a place to go.
The city quieted, and we, the Las Vegas locals, remained. Where were you when you first heard the word coronavirus?
When I first heard about the coronavirus, it was news coming out of the internet and news outlets when they were talking about the things that were happening in China. And it didn't really start to become a concern because a lot of, new strains of the flu come out of China. I think it was not until the thing started spreading in Italy, in Iran, where everybody started to take notice.
I first heard the word coronavirus on campus. There were a couple of students talking about it outside one of my classes, and then when I went into class, my friends and I in class started discussing it.
I was in Japan on a vacation early January, and there wasn't much news about the coronavirus outside of China at the time. We knew that it was there, but it wasn't really a worldwide pandemic yet. My dad actually informed me that there were the very first cases of coronavirus in Japan the day that I actually got back from Japan. And it was in areas where I had traveled for my vacation, and so that was my first encounter somewhat close to the coronavirus.
When I first heard the word coronavirus, I was just at home. It was through the news, just watching current events and how, the number of cases in China is just rising immensely. And not only that, many people are dying from this virus. So that's when I first heard about the coronavirus.
Through my news feed on my phone, and I just saw headlines of the word coronavirus, but I didn't think nothing of it, so I just kept scrolling and went about my way.
When did you realize the severity of the situation?
When the number of cases in South Korea spiked immensely. I was actually planning a trip to South Korea, but had to, immediately cancel all plans because, I didn't want to risk it.
I realized it when I went to Costco and everybody's fighting for the bag of rice and the tissue and the paper towel. And before coming into Costco, there are lots of people fighting for the line.
When I heard that other schools were shutting down because of it, when I heard Harvard shut down because of it, that's when I was thinking, oh, maybe this is a bit more serious than I thought. But then, of course, UNLV shut down because of it. And now, I definitely know it's a lot more serious than it was before.
I first realized the severity of the situation when I was at work again, and it was a couple weeks later, and we were having the Pac-12 conference at my job, and when I went in the back office, everyone who was in the back office was looking at the TV screen and was looking at President Trump giving his speech about how he was going to close the borders, and then right after that, we started hearing that the Pac-12 conference was going to be closed, the rest of our concerts for the month were going to be canceled, and I just saw that it was a really big deal and that people were canceling everything because of fear.
I think I started to understand the severity of the situation when you started to see images of patients lined up in the hospital and unable to breathe. You heard accounts of people and how awful they felt with their symptoms of the coronavirus. But most importantly, I think that I really understood the severity of the situation within the Las Vegas Valley when I started to see patients who were suspected to have COVID and how severe some of their symptoms were and how quickly their health declined.
How has the quarantine affected your everyday life?
It's affected everything in my life.
So quarantine is kind of putting my everyday life on hold. I no longer go to campus, I no longer go to my lab, I no longer go to the gym. So I'm kind of having to do all of those things from home.
I'm no longer able to do the things that I once looked forward to. I can't go out and get a cup of coffee. I can't go to the library and study. I can't see my friends.
My everyday life has been affected by coronavirus because I'm currently sitting at home and working. Also, I'm not able to do a lot of the things I do on a daily basis, like go to the gym, take my kids to school, and do all the things I do on a normal basis.
I can't go outside as often. I can't be surrounded by people and hear the noise in the same way that I used to. And it's been upsetting.
Really the only time I leave my house, besides just going for little walks around the neighborhood to get sunlight, is grocery shopping.
Well, since the schools have been closed, instead of going to work in the morning and coming home to my son, I'm like a stay-at-home mom now since I'm with my son 24/7.
I don't go to school anymore, I don't work, I was laid off, so it's just like I'm at home all the time. So it gets like the days just run together.
So it has affected my everyday life so much.
Do you know anyone that has been infected with the virus?
Somebody that I work with remotely across the country I know has it, but not somebody that I am immediately interacting with or have interacted with.
A girl from high school who was infected with the virus, and she is in the hospital in stable condition, but it has affected her because she has an autoimmune disease. So I am praying that she gets well soon.
There are some people close to us that we may have suspected that they were infected, but no one that has actually been tested and confirmed.
I do know people who are pretty convinced that they have already had it, but I haven't had conversations or known anyone who has tested positive.
I personally don't really know anyone with the virus, and if I'm being entirely honest, I kind of hope it stays that way. But in all seriousness, I hope that anyone with the virus does get better.
How has your college education been impacted by COVID-19?
It's now a little harder to get work done. It's also harder because in some ways there's a certain stress, I think, that comes with being quarantined. And so sometimes I just feel anxious.
I have taken a huge hit in my education in terms of the quality, because, discussion posts and even online class meetings just don't fully replace, in-person discussions.
I didn't realize how much I enjoyed simply sitting next to someone and having small conversations, or being able to, ask a peer quickly what the answer to a question was if I didn't understand it during the lecture, or going to office hours and having a face-to-face conversation with my professor.
It's kind of sad because this is my last semester, and so I'm not getting those final senior moments that I thought I would be getting on campus. And then my graduation was also postponed, so that was actually really sad for me. I cried because I was just really looking forward to that.
Being at home signals something in my head where it's time to watch Netflix, time to relax, where I actually have to sit down and study now, so I feel like I've lost a lot of focus being at home.
My high school education has been impacted by COVID-19 because
Our school had been canceled due to the virus, and it delayed a lot of activities and learning that we could have learned. And so far, we believe that our school year will end, which is unfortunate.
How has COVID-19 affected your job?
Everyone was laid off. I work specifically for T-Mobile Arena. All of our concerts have been canceled up until May, and they're still deciding whether or not we're going to continue in May. And all of our hockey has been canceled, so it's just been an ongoing cycle where everything is just back-to-back being canceled. So we're all laid off until further notice, which really stinks, and we're not getting paid. So
right now, we are doing maybe 1/4 of our consults and visits are via telephone conferencing, so that we have social distancing, making sure that they know their laboratory results, that they have their refills of medication for chronic condition, and we make sure that we don't compromise the patient.
It's completely changed how we respond to emergencies. Because every call where we have a patient contact, we now have to wear certain protective equipment. So we now have to wear splash goggles or glasses in order to protect us from splash protection. And we also have to wear something called an N95 respirator, which protects us against airborne droplets.
I used to work as a substitute teacher, a day in, day out substitute teacher. I would go to schools in between my days on campus as a way to make extra money. And when the school districts closed, there was no room for day in, day out subs anymore. There's no really real way that we can take jobs or get paid. So we're all kind of in free fall.
And it's completely ended any hope of a career search for the time being, be it you can't go to meet people in their offices for interviews or anything along those lines. And there's been just such a flood of now unemployed people into the job market that need it more than me. I wouldn't want to compete with them anyway.
I'm a business banker, so I have a lot of small businesses that are affected by COVID-19, so they're constantly reaching out to me for a lifeline because they need money. They need lines of credit and loans to bridge the gap until they're able to get fully operational again.
How has COVID-19 affected your financial situation?
We are a city where we rely primarily on tourism and hospitality, and that is one of our main industries that employ millions of people here in Las Vegas. And myself included, my two parents are also a part of the tourism industry and have felt the effects of the closures of the hotels, casinos, and tourism industry.
The virus has affected my financial situation in the sense that I have to be careful about the expenses, as there is no telling when you will get laid off or just get your paycheck reduced, and you always try to look and make sure that you only spend on essential items, which is now basically just food and supplies that you use every day.
Right now, we have less patients coming in, and less patients means less income for the clinic, and of course, less of the bonuses. And I don't even know on how long this will last. So I don't know on what the promulgation is, or will there be a law for us to stop a primary care clinic and just allow the hospital, so even my job security is in line.
We're cutting back on all our non-essential spending as a family. We're getting ready. If a recession hits, in the 2008 recession, our business was hit extremely hard. My mom had to fight tooth and nail to not go under, and we, by a thread, made it through that recession. So it's a waiting game right now for the family to see what happens with the economy with every day that comes. And so we're starting to prepare now in case things happen and we get hit really hard again.
I'm fortunate enough to still have parents that care enough about me to keep me afloat. I provide for my own rent, my own food, but I have enough saved up from working throughout the summers, beginning when I was in high school going forward, that It's kind of like a squirrel with their little hoard of nuts in a tree right now. I'm able to keep myself afloat for a while longer. But if this continues throughout the summer and through the remainder of the year, then I will certainly be hurting financially.
How has the situation affected your mental health?
I feel like my emotions have been on a roller coaster. I've been happy, like when we first got in quarantine, I was like, this is so much fun. Like I get to catch up on my Netflix, I get to watch shows, and then like as time has gone on and seeing that the period is being extended, it just goes in waves. Like I plummet and I get really sad and I get really, not depressed, but just kind of like hopeless, thinking that we're gonna be here for a while. I get bored and kind of lonely sometimes, so it just stinks to be in the house all the time.
I realize how much I rely on other individuals throughout my day-to-day life to maintain kind of a homeostasis. Initially I thought that I was kind of an introvert, didn't really go out of my way to talk to other individuals. Obviously I did when I had to, but now I realize how much I took for granted those small conversations that you have while passing by an acquaintance, or just simply saying hello to the people around you.
I'm not a person who's good at being like cooped up and doing the same thing day in and day out. And I also tend to like get in my head very easily. So when you have very little to do besides contemplate things and you're in the same space all of the time, it makes it very hard to have any sort of escape. You have to get very creative, and it's really hard to get creative when you're not motivated to. So the whole thing has really taken a toll on me mentally, and I'm honestly still trying to figure out ways to combat that.
It brought a lot of fear at the beginning of this pandemic because there was a lot of uncertainty of when and how this pandemic will end, and that just brings a lot of fear to our family.
The virus pandemic actually made me a little bit anxious. Oh, a little anxiety is good, keep me on my toes, but then I realized that what I have with medical knowledge, the current science right now, is not enough. It actually focused me to look up there to God, and that I need to have this mental state stable so that I can help others and not worry about myself or how to protect my family.
What changes have you made in your daily routine?
I'm able to have more time to do the things that I like and, you know, to feel better and make breakfast and all the things that I wasn't able to do when I was having to be on campus every day.
I think that I'm at a point right now where the main changes that I'm focusing on are just trying to bring back senses of normalcy in my life, whether that be creating spaces in my house where I can feel calm and feel like I have like a bookstore or coffee shop vibe, or going on walks so I could feel like I'm doing some kind of exercise, or just creating time where I can just feel normal again and just do small things.
A lot of your day, my day, used to get eaten up with drive time, with talking to people between classes, with things like that. So now I'm getting things done really quickly, but then I have nowhere to go and I have a lot of hours to fill up.
It's completely different. I don't really have to get up at any particular time except for the days when I have, you know, like an online scheduled class. It's hard to stay motivated because, you know, everything is on your own time. I can work out whenever because I'm just working out at home. I don't have anywhere to be. So my daily routine is basically the same thing every day. I wake up and I'm here, I fall asleep and I'm here.
I've been sleeping longer and going to bed earlier. There's more distractions in the household than there were if I were to go to a library or something along those lines, which has made it harder to really sit down and focus on the tasks that need to be completed, and overall it's not been as good as I would like.
Usually my daughter leaves the house earlier than me, early morning, because she has to go to UNLV and beat the traffic. But now it seems like I am the one to leave and they have to stay. And when I come back, I usually hug and kiss my wife and daughter, but this time around I cannot do that. I have to make sure that they are not compromised because I have been exposed to a lot of patients and I might be carrying something.
What hobbies, if any, have you picked up?
I feel as though any hobbies I've picked up have been mostly bad habit hobbies. I've been playing on my phone more, I've been playing video games more, I've been watching more obscure YouTube videos more, just things that kill time basically.
No, I haven't picked up any new hobbies at all. I'm just trying to get work done, trying to get by, and I'm just carrying on the same hobbies that I had before.
Hobbies that I picked up while in quarantine is, trying to do a lot of physical activity at home, mat exercises, stretches. Also, I've also been, cooking a lot at home, so that's definitely been a hobby of mine previously, but has been something that I've been enjoying and doing a lot more of. And also what's kind of tied into that is TikTok. I downloaded this app a couple months ago, but it's definitely been addicting to watch all these TikToks that many people are creating, especially during quarantine. And it's definitely, made me want to create videos too.
I've been learning to cook more. Not necessarily that I couldn't cook before, but I'm trying to cook more advanced dishes. I'm no Gordon Ramsay or anything, but the other day I tried to make a souffled omelet, and it was a spectacular failure. But I'm glad I tried it. I'll try it again, definitely.
So I already have a lot of activities that I do. I practice yoga, I work out, I meditate, but I'm just able to do more of those things now that I have more time.
Because of social distancing, I now spend more time binging with movies with my wife and daughter, and also watching documentaries and hoping that the news will be there that this virus pandemic is done.
What do you miss the most about normal life?
The noise, silence is deafening inside. You go out and look outside, normally you can hear the bikes from kids on the sidewalk or anything like that. It's just been a ghost town, deserted, quiet emptiness, and it's not enjoyable by any means.
To be with people. That's the one that I miss a lot, because you cannot really, it's just like you're locked in your own house. There's nothing to do, just watch TV, do some household chores. You cannot really even go out.
Life now is like living with fear and anxiety, and it's very sort of depressing. So what I miss about my normal life is just being normal and doing normal everyday things. You don't think about how good or your life is until a lot of your freedoms and things are taken away. So I just want to be back to normal again.
Going out. Going to the market without any hesitation or anxiety that if you go to the market, once you're there, you won't find anything in the shelves. So the normal thing of being a mom.
The one thing that I miss the most is my family time after work. Because of this virus pandemic, we cannot go to the boba place after work, shop in the mall, or at least window shop in the mall, or even eat in restaurants. I really miss those.
How would you say the virus has impacted your cultural, religious beliefs, if at all?
My church was forced to move to entirely online web streaming sermons and things of those natures. And very similar to school in that regard, just another part of my life where there was social communication and noise has been cut off.
So it's had a pretty big impact. I used to go to Shabbat dinners every Friday, and because I'm Jewish, and now I'm unable to go to those, so I've been kind of missing the connection with my other Jewish community.
Well, the real essence of the Mass, you cannot really feel it because you're not in the church. It's just like it's different when you're online.
Since we are on lockdown, we are no longer meeting in church to worship. we're having virtual services, and that makes the whole experience different in my perspective, because I like worshiping with everyone in our church, and it's weird not being able to see them in person.
This pandemic is a big blow in my culture as a Filipino, and as a Seventh-day Adventist, my fellowship in the church. You see, we love fellowshipping and having potluck.
Filipino people loves gathering, cooking, and then going to one place, one house, and just gather.
A lot of my social calendar was things that had to do with church life that we all try to stay in touch through, messaging platforms, we occasionally Zoom together, different ministries. There's also online church, but it's definitely different than going to service every Sunday.
Service through online. And I think that's even better because it's become more accessible for people who cannot attend. And, it's still an outlet where people can still enjoy their religious customs.
My mom, who used to burn incense once a month, now burns them once a week. Sometimes once every 3 days. She's worried and she prays that it passes. Prays that people won't be infected.
What are your thoughts about stockpiling food, supplies, and toilet paper?
It's good to have enough supplies for me, myself, and my family. But then at the back of my mind, my conscience tells me it's wrong. I have to think of others as well.
It's ridiculous to have a year's worth of toilet paper and hand sanitizer stocked up in your house. I think that kind of hysteric buying is only perpetuating the chaos that's in the world right now. When you clear out the shelves like that, you also limit those resources to those who may really need it.
I have a friend who has a certain disorder where he has to eat like meat and carbs, like substantial meals every couple of hours because he has issues with his blood levels and things like that. And a lot of what he used to eat in order to get through his day, like packets of tuna and beans and any sort of meat and protein, are all bought out where he lives. And so that's been very, very hard for him.
People that are like slamming the grocery stores and buying hordes of everything are exacerbating this issue and making it so much worse than it needs to be. There's no reason to be doing all that. Grocery stores are essential businesses. They're gonna stay open. They have stuff. I mean, they're telling us to stay away from groups and to stay home, and then you have people lining up at 5 a.m. that are wrapped around Sam's Club like it's Black Friday shopping. So those are like the worst type of people to me.
With all due respect, I think that the people that are stockpiling these supplies like this are absurd and selfish. There's more than enough supplies. Most of the U.S. supply of toilet paper is made in the U.S. It does not come from factories in China. Stockpiling the supplies like this is only going to make it harder on other people. What good is a 20-year supply of toilet paper for you? It's of no impact to anyone, and it's been one of the greatest burdens that this virus has caused.
What do you think about people continuing to meet and interact despite the mandatory quarantine?
They are not being responsible enough because, as we now know, each one of us can be carriers of the virus even though we are not sick.
Shame on them because they are not responsible and they don't care about other people, especially the adults who might be infected because of them.
I believe that the people who are continuing to interact is putting everyone at greater risk, because for those who are taking quarantine seriously and putting all of their efforts to trying to flatten the curve of this pandemic, those people who are not taking it seriously is just going to it's just like trying to contradict what we're trying to do.
People who are not practicing social distancing is really just affecting the whole thing. We could be in quarantine even longer due to that, and I think it's just immature, and I think people should just listen and just social distance from each other. It's not that hard.
I think that it is completely ignorant to think that you are above the coronavirus. The virus can impact anybody of any age range, and to completely ignore everything that the government has been stating, which is to self-distance and self-quarantine, is not only endangering yourselves and the people within the immediate proximity of you, but also the entire community and the healthcare system.
What is keeping you hopeful during this difficult time?
Things that are keeping me hopeful are that there are people working on therapeutics, antivirals and things like that maybe be able to help with this virus. I'm hopeful that they'll discover a vaccine and be able to put it through clinical trials quickly, and we'll be able to have a vaccine.
My passion for neuroscience and the belief and the dream that I have that I'll become, a scientist someday that's going to do research that will impact, the public health of our nation and hopefully the world. So those dreams and those goals are really keeping me motivated during this time because I'm super excited to get back to my research.
Something that's keeping me hopeful during this difficult time is how people can come together even in the worst of times. Right now, there are food banks and restaurants who are giving out free meals and free food for those individuals who are food insecure or cannot financially buy food to sustain their households.
I really do believe that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and I know that when we're in something so deep, it feels like we're never going to be able to make it to the surface, but I honestly believe and I have so much hope and faith that we're going to get through this, and I am just looking forward to the day where we can look back at this and understand that we survived something really big.
I don't know if I'd be able to get through this without prayer and without just faith in God that we're gonna make it through this, we're gonna get over this, and this is just a test that we have to go through, but just to be joyful and hopeful even in the middle of it that this will not last forever, but this will be over soon.
How have you grown throughout this situation?
I've seen myself grow throughout this entire situation in my ability to keep going and keep handling things and not succumb to panic, even though things are really scary and uncertain.
I thought I won't be learning new tricks, but this situation has taught me that even though I'm old, I can still mature one more notch above.
I've definitely matured a little bit in terms of my ideals about it, I guess.
It changed my perspective of life and what's important.
And I've realized that life is too short.
I've realized how important it is to have community and to connect with one another and be there for one another.
People in Las Vegas, the country, and the world have come together as a community to offer support and aid to the professionals that are working to help combat this virus in the front lines versus the people that are unable to get supplies due to the hoarding. And just as a community, people in general have been supporting each other, which is good.
Previous focus on sports events, previous focus on popularity, being famous, previous focus on money matters are now shifted to the more basic of health, family, humanity, and God.
In the absence of the glamour and the good times, the heartbeat of Las Vegas survived. Millions of people learned to live in the uncertainty brought by COVID-19. Us locals who call Sin City home carried on and came together, united by our stories of the time the lights went out.
We are the wild youth, chasing visions of our futures. One day we'll reveal the truth, that one will die before he gets there. And if you're still bleeding, you're the lucky ones. 'Cause most of our feelings, they are dead and they are gone. We're setting fire to our insides for fun.